Hello and welcome to OK Photo Reviews. Today we will be taking a look at a comparison between three hatchbacks in the Kenyan market. These are the Mazda Axela, the Toyota Auris, and lastly the Volkswagen Golf. These are all 2015 models, so if you're in the market for either of these hatchbacks, then it may be important that you watch till the end, because at the end of this video I'll let you know which one is the most suitable option. So please stay tuned. If you find this content helpful, then please consider subscribing to the channel for more informative content on cars. You can also use the details in the description box to support the production of this content by donating. Your support will be much appreciated. There are also artworks for sale, so if you are into art or are interested in any of the artworks being displayed on your screen, then feel free to reach me via WhatsApp. They are being offered at affordable prices, and the prices also include the transportation costs. So if you are in Nairobi, Nakuru, Kisumu, or any other place within the country, then the artwork will reach you without any problems. That is also another way in which you can support the channel. That said, let's now move straight into the comparison review, beginning with the prices of each of these hatchbacks. The Volkswagen Golf has a starting price of around 1.35 million. Most of them are going for about 1.4, 1.5, 1.6 million depending on the mileage, trim level, and the overall condition of the car. The starting price of the Mazda Axela is around 1.4 million shillings, again depending on the mileage and trim level. Top of the range variants can go from as much as 1.7, 1.8, or even 2 million. The Auris, on the other hand, has a starting price of around 1.35 million and can go up to around 1.7 for this 2015 model. So in terms of the price, there's no much big difference between them. They are almost similarly priced. Let's now talk about how much they cost to insure. The third party 7,000 shillings per annum on each car, while for the comprehensive insurance, on average expect to pay around 64,000 shillings per annum for the VW Golf. That is the average of the 5 quotations that I got back from different insurance companies. Insurance has really gone up, and that's why the quotations are this high. I got back 4 quotations for the Mazda Axela, and on average it's about 62,000 shillings per annum. This is just to give you an idea of what you may be expected to pay, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you will pay 60,000 shillings to insure a 2015 Mazda Axela. You may pay lower than this depending on the value of your car as well as other factors. Lastly, for the Auris, I also got back 5 quotations, and on average it's around 66,000 shillings per annum. So again, in terms of the insurance, there's no much big difference between them. Let's now talk engine options. In typical VW fashion, you can get the Golf with numerous engine options with different power outputs. There are 3 petrol options and 2 diesel options. All these engine options are turbocharged. There is a 1.2 liter, a 1.4 liter, and a 2.0 liter. Those are the petrol options. In terms of the diesel options, you get a 1.6 or a 2.0 liter. These engines can be coupled to any of the 4 gearbox options available. There is a 6 or 7 speed DCT automatic, or a 5 or 6 speed manual. Let's talk a bit about these engines before we move on to the Mazda Axela. As I said in the previous videos, turbochargers are good for power. They try to strike a balance between power and fuel efficiency, but on the flip side, they add a layer of complexity in the sense that more care and maintenance is needed. Otherwise, once the turbo develops any issues, you will have to replace it, and it's quite expensive. Now, the 1.2 and 1.4 liter engines may not be very reliable, because being that they are small engines means that they will be overworked. The turbo is a forced induction system that forces these small engines to produce more power, and the truth is that with time these engines will not age well. They will start developing problems which will certainly not be cheap to fix. It will also depend on how you drive the car. If you tend to always drive fast and perform rapid acceleration, then you will limit the lifespan of these small engines. But if you just drive gently, then they can just last, even though not as a naturally aspirated engine that you get in the Toyota Auris and Mazda Axela. Another issue with the VW is the Dct transmission. These dual clutch transmissions are composed of two sets of clutches. One controls the odd gears while the other set controls the even gears. They normally shift the gears very fast and they provide a responsive and engaging drive. They however have a few disadvantages, one being that due to their complexity they can be difficult and expensive to repair once something goes wrong. Again, due to that complexity, they are not that reliable compared to normal torque converters. Something to take note of is that your driving style will also influence how reliable and durable that DCT will be. For example, if there's a bit of traffic on an incline, just use the brake to prevent the car from going backwards. Some drivers normally use the accelerator slightly to prevent the car from going backwards. If you do this to a car with a normal torque converter gearbox, it will be fine. But if you do the same to a car with a DCT gearbox, then you will be shortening the lifespan of your transmission, because you will now be confusing the transmission control unit, which will result in the slipping of the clutches. This will produce a lot of heat and lead to extensive wear of the gearbox. So the best thing to do is to use the brake to keep or to stop the car from going backwards. That said, these VW engines are relatively reliable. They are not as reliable as the Japanese counterparts. Then something else is that they need to be pampered in order to last. These are engines that cannot stand poor maintenance. The service schedule must be followed very strictly. You cannot maintain a Volkswagen the same way you will maintain a Toyota. Moving on to the Mazda Axela, there are 4 engine options: a 1.5, a 2.0, another 2.0, but this is now a hybrid. Then lastly, there's a 2.2 liter diesel. The transmission options on offer are either a 6-speed automatic or a 6-speed manual. There's also an ECVT exclusively for the hybrid variants. The engine and transmission options have the Sky Active technology, which is a series of technologies that are aimed at increasing the fuel efficiency, reduction of emissions, and also improved performance. This car is available in either front or all-wheel drive. These engines are very reliable, especially the 1.5 liter and the 2.0 liter. The hybrid is also reliable. In fact, the hybrid components in this car are from a Toyota Prius. So in terms of hybrid reliability, it should be just as good as the Prius. The 1.5 liter is decently powerful enough. The only time you may feel the need for more power is when the car is going uphill and is loaded with passengers and cargo, as well as when trying to overtake. Aside from that, it's a simple and reliable engine. The 2.0 is more powerful, so overtaking will not be such a problem. The most powerful engine is the 2.2 liter diesel, yet it's also very fuel efficient, as we will see later in this video. This is one fast, responsive, and engaging engine that will impress many people. As I had mentioned in the previous video of the Mazda Axela, this diesel engine has a few shortcomings. One is that our not so clean diesel may affect this engine's performance. Secondly, there may be issues with the diesel particulate filter, DPF, so only go for this engine if you will be going for long journeys. Otherwise, you will keep having problems once the DPF is totally clogged with soot. Lastly, you will have to be careful with the maintenance of this engine due to the turbo. If you are not keen with its maintenance, then you will have to part with a lot of money to replace the turbo once it fails. The Auris has got 3 engine options: a 1.5, a 1.8, and the other one is the newer 1.2 liter turbo that started being offered in the Auris in 2015. The best engine to get is either the 1.5 or the 1.8. Avoid that small 1.2 liter turbo. Same with the smaller VW engines, it will be strained with time and this will shorten its lifespan. So stick with the naturally aspirated engines if you want absolute reliability. In simple terms, naturally aspirated means the engines are not turbocharged. The transmission options on offer are either a CVT or a 6-speed manual. The car is also available in front or all-wheel drive. Moving on to fuel consumption, all these figures will depend on how you drive. Beginning with the Golf, its 1.2 liter can achieve around 20 kilometers per liter, the 1.4 around 19 kilometers per liter, the 2.0 around 16 kilometers per liter. The 1.6 liter diesel will get around 26, while the 2.0 will get around 22 kilometers per liter. Let's now talk about the service costs. Expect to part with around 10,000 shillings on average for the minor service, which should be done after every 5,000 kilometers. As for the major service, it will cost an average of about 20,000 shillings after 10,000 kilometers. Remember to always use the exact recommended engine oil and transmission fluid. This is not a car that you can risk using alternative cheaper service requirements. The Mazda Axela and Toyota Auris should also be serviced after every 5,000 kilometers. That's the minor service and it will cost an average of around 8,000 shillings, while the major service should be done after 10,000 kilometers and will cost about 16,000 shillings, again on average. The amount you spend will always depend on the quality of parts you use. The beauty about these Japanese cars is that you can even use alternative parts and they will just keep going. They are not as sensitive as the German vehicles. The Golf's cab weight ranges between 1245 to 1500 kgs. That of the Axela ranges between 1300 to around 1315 kgs. And lastly, that of the Auris ranges between 1190 to 1480 kgs. So the Golf is the heaviest hatchback here. The ground clearance of all these hatchbacks fall below the recommended 165 millimeters. The Golf's clearance is around 142 millimeters, the Axela's is 155 millimeters, and that of the Auris is 150 millimeters. So you will have to watch out for severe bumps, especially if the car has 5 passengers and cargo on board. Interfering with the clearance may not be such a good idea because it will affect the handling of the car. So the best thing to do is either living with the car like that by watching out for severe bumps or installing very slightly larger wheels and tires. Lastly, what are some of the extra features each of these hatchbacks come with? The most feature-loaded hatchback here is the Mazda Axela that can come with unique features such as a heads-up display, adaptive front lighting system, whereby the headlights will turn in tandem with the steering inputs. There's also a Bose audio system, an MZD connect that is linked to the infotainment screen. There is also paddle shifts, cruise control, a beige leather interior, and much more. It's very well kitted. In fact, it can shame some more expensive cars. The Golf is also well kitted, though not as the Axela. It gets extras such as parking sensors, keyless entry, Alcantara seats, a sunroof, cruise control, sport suspension for the performance variants, and LED lights. Lastly, the Auris is the most basic car here. It's not all that feature loaded. You can get it with features such as alloy rims, USB charging ports, cruise control, paddle shifts, even though it has a CVT gearbox. There's also automatic AC, smart start, and a panoramic glass roof. Before we wrap up this video, let's quickly talk about this vehicle's exterior and interior designs. Without a doubt, the Axela edges out both the Golf and the Auris, not just in the exterior design but also in the interior. That Kodo design has really nailed it. In fact, describing this car by one word is quite difficult. You can term it as sporty, classy, premium, and also aggressive. On the other hand, the Golf's design can simply be termed as mature, while that of the Auris can simply be termed as elegant. Let me know in the comments section which car takes the day in terms of the looks. Moving on to the interiors, these cars are all spacious enough for a small family. There's decent room at both the front and back rows. The booths are also moderately spacious to carry maybe 2 large suitcases and a few other smaller items. The dash design of the Axela is the most interesting and premium. It's almost a class above the Golfs and Auris dash designs, which tend to look more basic and simple. So with all that out of the way, which one is the most suitable option? My recommendation is the Mazda Axela. This is one premium hatchback that has impressive looks, good fuel efficiency, good driving dynamics, and is very reliable as well. It's also easy on the pocket when it comes to maintenance. That 6-speed Skyactiv automatic really does a good job in providing very smooth, responsive, and engaging shifts. In fact, comparing it to the CVT in the Auris is doing it a disservice. For daily commutes, the best engine to go for is either the 1.5 liter or the 2.0 liter hybrid. That's if you're into hybrids. If you intend to also do long distance drives, then go for the 2.0 liter, even though it's a bit rare. You can also get the more powerful 2.2 liter diesel, but do take note of the shortcomings I mentioned earlier. At the second position, we have the Toyota Auris. It's also quite good looking. It's very reliable, especially the 1.5 and the 1.8 liter. It has very good resale value, and it's also affordable to maintain. The reason it's not in the first position is because the Axela beats it in most, if not all, the categories. The only aspect where the Auris can beat the Axela is in the resale value, but other than that, the Axela is really hard to beat. Last but not least, we have the VW Golf. The third position doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad car. In fact, it really excels in the driving dynamics. It's very stable at high speeds, and it's also very responsive due to that dual clutch transmission. So where does it fall short? One is its complexity. When you combine the complexity of a DCT and a small turbocharged engine, you get a recipe for unreliability and expensive maintenance and repairs in the long run. Yes, it can be reliable, but you will have to pamper it and be very strict with the service schedule. A slight mistake can end up costing you expensive repairs. Its basic and mature design may also not win it younger buyers who prefer something more sporty and aggressive. It also doesn't have such a good resale value compared to the Toyota Auris and Mazda Axela. Other than those factors, it drives well, its build quality is very impressive, and it feels very solid. If you really want a VW Golf, then avoid those very small engines, and if possible, go for the manual gearbox. It's better than the more complex dual clutch gearbox. So there you have it. Thanks a lot for watching. Let me know which car you would go for in the comment section. If you have any inquiries or would like to advertise your car for sale on the channel, then reach me via email or WhatsApp. That's it for this episode. Stay safe. See you in the next video.